Hey everyone, this is Chris.
And this is Julia, and we are back with episode number 33 of the Mixology Talk podcast.
So we've been getting some great listener questions lately, so we thought we'd catch up a bit and do a little bit of Q&A today.
And don't forget, if you have any cocktail questions of your own, or questions about mixology, bartending, all that good stuff, feel free to come on over and ask. Just go to the show notes for any episode, like this one, at mixologytalk.com/33. Scroll down and you will see, I think they're blue, a couple blue buttons where you can click to send us your questions.
Absolutely. So we've been getting some really great questions lately, and hopefully our answers are somewhat useful.
No promises, anyone.
Yeah, we totally didn't make up the answers.
No way. Absolutely not. Let's dig in.
So the first question comes from my buddy from Maui, Terry, and he asks, how do you convert parts into measurements? Now, this is a really great question, Terry, and there are a lot of recipes out there that are written in this form. I understand the reason for this is that the liquor company uses parts instead of specific units of measure to keep recipes more universal.
Yeah, since most countries use milliliters in their cocktail recipes, but the United States uses fluid ounces.
So backwards.
I know. It can cause a lot of confusion, and it means that people who are writing recipes feel like they have to write them twice. But by using parts, they're kind of off the hook.
And not only that, but once you do like large-scale bartending and stuff, that style of recipe in parts is infinitely scalable.
That's true. If you're making a giant, if you're making 200 of a recipe, you're not going to be doing it 1 ounce at a time.
Yeah, and it actually, trying to calculate how many ounces you're going to need is actually kind of a setback. So using the parts is a really good idea when you're doing stuff like that.
That's a good point, yeah.
And while it does make it easier for the person who is publicizing a recipe, it makes it a lot harder for those of us that are trying to actually use it. But the good news is that there's an easy way and there's a hard way to convert the recipe into parts, into recipe units.
So I'm going to go ahead and take the easy one. The easy way is to just pick an arbitrary unit and use that as your part. So if you have a cocktail that's 2 parts gin and 1 part Campari.
Oh, that sounds horrible.
I totally just made that up. Is that a real cocktail?
No, I don't think so.
Don't make this recipe, everyone. If you had a cocktail that was 2 parts gin and 1 part Campari, you could just do 1 ounce for your part, and you would use 2 ounces gin, 1 ounce Campari, and accordingly. The benefit of this approach is that there's no math involved, which is always a good thing.
Yeah.
The bad part of this approach is that you really don't get an exact measure of how much liquid you're going to end up with. So you could end up with a glass that doesn't look very full, or a bunch of extra, although a bunch of extra doesn't sound so bad.
Yeah. So, chances are pretty good that the easy way is going to work out for you. But if you're preparing a menu for a restaurant, you're going to need exact pours, and here's how to do it.
Unfortunately, folks, this is the hard way.
Yeah, the way that makes you do math.
You're going to have to sit down. I think you're going to need a number 2 pencil and a protractor.
Probably. And, find the nearest smart kid closest to you, because you're probably going to need one of those, too.
But don't give him any alcohol.
Not till afterwards. So here's the first step, is you need to figure out the total volume that you need to end up with. You can either measure the glass the drink will be served in, or you can use kind of a bar standard pour, like 1.5 ounce, 2 ounce, whatever is the standard pour for your bar. If you're using the size of your glass as your measure, and the drink will be served on ice, cut that amount in half, because ice takes up a significant portion of your total volume. So step number 2. Basically, you want to reduce that volume by about 20%. As we mentioned before, shaking or stirring a cocktail adds anywhere between 20 to 30% water, so you need to account for that to leave room in the glass. The result is the total volume of your cocktail ingredients. All right, now step 3.
I'm gonna go get a drink.
Man, you make me one too, because I'm already lost. But if you add up all your recipe parts, if it's 2 parts gin and 1 part Campari, like Julia's amazing cocktail, that's 3 parts total. Capiche?
Makes sense to me. Step 4: make yourself a drink. This is getting ridiculous.
Yeah, and there's only 10 more steps, so we're so close.
I want to use my protractor.
But take the total amount that you found in step 2.
Which you wrote down with your number 2 pencil.
I'm sure we're all paying attention, and there will be a test at the end of this.
There will be.
And divide that number by the total number of recipe parts. And the last part is to adjust the recipe accordingly.
Yeah, I think this is a great way to get a really exact recipe, but that just seems too hard.
Yeah, you're telling me. I think very few people really need to use the exact method I described, but when you do, you do. There's no way around it.
So you want to know how I do it?
Usually the easy way. Or
actually,
usually probably just ask me.
Okay, that's true. Actually, I cheat in a different way.
Okay, and now I'm interested.
This is probably the fastest way to deal with this problem, and that is just go ahead and Google another recipe that just uses ounces or milliliters or whatever you normally use. There's a ton of recipes on the internet, and frankly, there's probably another version that's already figured it out for you.
No, I wish you would have said that like 4 minutes ago.
I know.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm already bored.
You're welcome. So hopefully this answers your question, Terry, and I'll cross my fingers that you can get away with the easy or my cheater way. That works too.
That sounds pretty amazing. Damn it.
Question number 2 comes from Michael Goldman from Oregon, home of the Ducks.
Did he actually say he came from the home of the Ducks?
That was verbatim. He wrote home of the Ducks.
Wow, nice shout out, Michael. Cool.
I know. It's either a shout out or he just really likes birds.
That could be it.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
But actually, Michael, you should know we have ducks in California too. All right, so here's Michael's question. Do you ever use or make a gum simple syrup? Supposedly, this was the simple syrup of the past, using gum arabica, which I'm not sure I'm pronouncing correctly. That was me, not Michael. It's supposed to dramatically improve the mouthfeel of cocktails. Now, I'm going to go ahead and defer immediately to Chris on this question, because this is a total cocktail nerd question.
Toodle cocktail. This is definitely a cocktail nerd question, and I've used gum arabica in the past to make gum syrup for cocktails, and my understanding is that you are absolutely correct. It used to be extremely common to use gum syrup in cocktails, but nowadays most people just use simple syrup. So that being said, gum syrup is a great addition to classic cocktails, and it does alter the mouthfeel and the texture of drinks. Gum arabica is basically hardened sap of acacia trees and is used a lot in the food industry as an emulsifier and a thickener. So working with it can be a little bit tricky, however, as you need to kind of bloom or hydrate the gum in room temperature water before you add it to the sugar. After the gum is dissolved, then you add the rest of the ingredients to your syrup. So I'm sure there are a lot of different ways to make gum syrup, but that's how I've made it in the past.
Didn't you actually do a video about gum syrup?
Yeah, actually, I made a video going through the process of creating a gum syrup and using it in cocktails. And we'll definitely include that in the show notes over at mixologytalk.com/33.
Yeah, that's definitely a good way to go into the detail of that process. And it actually kind of sounds like working with gum syrup is a little bit like working with gelatin.
Yeah, you know what? Actually, that's a really good comparison.
Thank you. I thought of it myself.
You're amazing.
So in summary, gum syrup is something that folks used to use a lot in cocktails as a slight thickener to add some smoothness and mouthfeel. It can definitely still be done, but it's a lot more work than just using simple syrup, and I think that's probably why it's relatively uncommon.
Yeah, and you can find gum arabica online. You definitely want to find the food-grade stuff. And I think when I got it, it was just over at Amazon, so you can definitely get that there.
Yeah, or you can just gnaw on your local acacia tree.
Right.
That's another option that we don't, that's a life hack.
It's yeah, just go straight to the source.
Organic.
I know. So our last question for today, thank God, comes from TJ from Memphis, who asks, "Hey y'all, what is our preferred dirty martini recipe? And do we use gin, vodka, Genever? Is there a particular spirit that we recommend? What about vermouth and olive juice and olives as well?" So he's asking some pretty specific questions on basically the perfect dirty martini.
Now, I'd like to point out one thing before we actually answer TJ's question. He wrote this question in on our website's form, and he actually typed out y'all. Now, I know folks in the South say y'all, but typing it out with the apostrophe and everything, TJ, you are a gentleman and a scholar.
Yeah, a lot of respect, man. Definitely. So, yeah, I was kind of tempted to try the Memphis accent, but I think we all learned that from our last episode, I'm not so good with the accent, so I'm just going to go ahead and steer clear of the whole thing.
Yeah, that was pretty terrible last week.
Yeah, sorry about that. Sorry, Australia.
Sorry.
Anyways, on to dirty martinis. Now, this is definitely taking me back a few years, and it's been a while since I've had a dirty martini, but I do love them.
Yeah, you used to drink a lot of them when we first met.
Yeah, that for a long time, that was my drink of choice. And I never did anything really fancy to it. I would have a nice, decent, respectable, healthy pour of vodka or gin.
So a lot.
Yeah, usually. And add the olive brine until I got to the right taste. Usually it was about 1/4 of an ounce to 1/2 an ounce because that olive brine is just so salty. It's really, really intense. And after that, I would chill it down and throw a couple of really large Spanish olives in there or caperberry. And yeah, I was pretty happy and usually pretty buzzed after that.
That's for sure. So what about vermouth? Did you use vermouth?
So, like I said, this was going back a long time ago, and I didn't have my current respect or appreciation for vermouth, and I would usually only add vermouth if I was using gin. Now, I'm kind of embarrassed to say that my reasoning was that gin was made from a lot of plant stuff, and dry vermouth had a lot of plant stuff in it, so I assumed it would be pretty good together.
Did you just say plant stuff?
Yeah, plant stuff, stuff from plants.
Is that a technical mixologist term?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, when we get together on our official mixologist meetings and we all put on our vests and suspenders, all we talk about is plant stuff.
I had a sneaky suspicion.
Yeah. No. I've definitely come a long way since my plant stuff days.
Thank goodness. I bet a Geneva dirty martini would be pretty good. You got all that plant stuff in the Geneva. And olives, they're a plant.
Yeah, I think you're mocking me, aren't you? I feel like you're mocking me.
Well, I mean, alternatively, you could just garnish it with a fern.
Oh my god, okay, you're killing me now.
So to answer your question, TJ, here is Chris's favorite recipe. 2 ounces of vodka, 1/4 ounce of olive brine.
And throw a couple of olives in there, or possibly a fern.
A fern. What kind of olives do you use?
Cacti, maybe.
Ooh, ouch. Occupational hazard.
Usually what I had before are the big jumbo Spanish olives, but Cerignola olives are fantastic in there. The biggest thing is make sure that your olives don't have a lot of oil in them, because if you shake your dirty martinis like I did back in the day, it would emulsify the fat into it, and it would make it really, really cloudy, and it's just... all that oil collects across the top of the surface, and it's delicious, but it's a little bit like an oil slick. So
yeah, you don't want that.
So yeah, make sure that you don't have a really oily olive in there. And that's pretty much it.
Sounds great.
Yeah, so that's pretty much it, everybody.
So that's it for today's episode. I think maybe we might have effectively answered the first question, but I'm pretty sure it was downhill from there.
Pretty much. Sorry, guys. But thanks again to Terry, Michael, and TJ for your questions. And remember, if you have any questions of your own, let us know over at mixologytalk.com/33.
Have a great week, everyone. We will see you next Wednesday.
Cheers, everyone.
Cheers. Never miss an episode by subscribing in iTunes or YouTube. And as always, check out the show notes by clicking on the right.